Hi, everyone. Welcome to ANC 1B Transportation, Parks, and Public Space meeting. It's the November meeting of the committee. And I think we have a nice full agenda tonight. So we can go ahead and get started. I'm gonna call the roll. So, Julius,
Present.
you, Dion,
Present.
Zoe, David,
Present.
Matthew, other Matthew, not here. Johnny,
Present.
Karen,
Present.
Genevieve,
Here.
Nicole,
Here.
great. Laura,
Present.
Jay, yes.
Present.
Rebecca, no. Ben,
Present. Hi.
Nick,
Hi. Present.
and then we have a new member, Angela Hatcher. I don't think she's here tonight. But we did.
She's present, Matt. She's in the waiting room.
Oh, I see her hand. Yes. Okay. So I think we're still working on getting her the link. So I'll work on that. Okay, so she's just joining now. Angela, welcome. I think you're muted. Great, Angela, you can hear us, right? Perfect. Okay, cool. So I'm going to share my screen, but that gets us to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13. Pretty good, guys. Okay, so I'm just going to go over the agenda real quick. Our first item is a presentation from DDOT on the U Street Bus Priority Project. I believe we have Andrew Grimberg, the project manager here, and so we'll hear from him in a minute about the project. And it's been a little while since we've heard from DDOT on this project, but I think they're working on finalizing the design, plans, and maybe construction towards the end of next year. So that'll be exciting to hear about that. Then some people might remember from the other month, we did a streetery resolution on abandoned streeteries and kind of unsightly streeteries and encouraging DC, the city government, to expedite removing them and not let them become eyesores. Since then, there's been a lot of conversation about the streeteries that are well maintained and do want to keep operating. Some feeling from the restaurant community and community members that the current resolution or the current new regulations would basically practically eliminate the program. So the council's transportation committee and council member Allen held a roundtable last week about this and heard from some people. So the chair of 1B, Chair Duramo, he has worked with some other ANCs to draft a resolution suggesting maybe changes or enhancements to the regulations that could maybe make them for good operators to operate them a little bit easier. So we'll discuss that. Then a resolution that was introduced to me by Commissioner Fay in 1B01 about the S Street redesign that opened earlier in the year. DDOT had promised to continue monitoring the changes and come back as necessary to make adjustments. And I think maybe they haven't been doing that. So that one's kind of an ask for a safety study. And then this number 4 will be a quicker item. And so we got a notice of intent for 8th and 8th Street Northwest and Florida Avenue Northwest about the installation of no turn on red signs at that intersection. The comment period actually closes on Friday, the 14th, so we wouldn't have time to do a formal resolution voted on by the full ANC in December. But since it was an official NOI from DDOT, I thought it would be good to still discuss. And if there's anything serious, we could, people could submit comments kind of without the full weight of the ANC resolution if they felt inclined. And then finally, continued discussion on the multifamily ADA parking resolution that we've been kind of working on the last couple of meetings. So I would like to motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll second.
Seconded by Jay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? No? Anyone abstaining? Great. The agenda is adopted. Great. Okay, so let's get started on our U Street bus project conversation. And I see Andrew is in the audience, so I'm going to go ahead and promote you to panelist, Andrew. Great. Looks like you're here. Welcome to the meeting.
Yep. Hey,
Thanks for
sorry.
being.
I want to get my name correct. When you're promoted, it doesn't give you a chance to see what you're listed as. So just gotta get it already. Great. So thank you so much for having me. I'm going to go ahead and share. Let's make sure I can do that. Sharing is not turned on. So if you can enable me to share my screen. That would be
Okay, I think now.
All right. Can you all see this slide deck?
Yes.
Great. All right. So thank you so much for having me. My name is Andrew Grinberg. I am a transportation planner on the bus priority team at DDOT. Been with the agency a few years. I manage a number of projects around town. I am fairly new to the U Street project. You all probably heard from previous project managers, Matt Hendrickson, who was leading this project for most of the planning process. And so we did have some staff turnover. Matt's no longer with the agency. This project is now in my portfolio. And so I'm really excited to be advancing it and engaging with you all on it going forward. So just a little bit of recap, since it has been over a year since we've really done substantive communication on this project. So it's, some of this will be, review that you all have heard before, and if you've been paying attention, but for the sake of getting everyone caught up to speed, we want to make sure we're thorough and everyone's on the same page, so there's no surprises. So the U Street Bus Priority Project runs from 9th to 18th Street. We completed our planning for this project from during 2023 and 2024. The project, we selected a concept and have sent the project into design earlier this year. We plan on working through design. It is a fairly complicated project, so design through 2025 and most of 2026, with the goal of doing construction in 2027. As you all likely remember, the concept that we selected calls for offset bus lanes, retaining curbside access, so most of the parking along U Street would be preserved. Lots of intersection safety improvements throughout as a Tier 1 high injury network corridor. U Street, any project we're going to do on U Street is going to be focused on safety first. Wanted to note a few adjoining and overlapping projects, and just so folks understand the different pieces of the puzzle here. So on the western end of this corridor from the 1700 block through the complex intersection at 18th, Florida, Vernon, and U Street, that will be a future kind of more capital intensive project that our capital corridors division will be, or sorry, capital corridors branch will be beginning planning on next year. And because, to do major work at that intersection, potentially widen the sidewalks and other kind of more capital pieces would require reconstruction of that block or so. We, would need kind of the bigger infrastructure division, IPMA, part of DDOT to do that actual construction work. And so that level of intervention isn't really suitable for a bus priority project. So what we can do is kind of more, lighter touch things like paint, curb extensions, bus stop treatments, things like that. But that full reconstruction needs to be part of a bigger project. I'll get into a little bit more about that in a bit. And then the other one that you all should be aware of is the Florida Avenue project, which is just to the east of this corridor. Is actually on hold for right now, and I'll get into that in just a little bit. So just a quick recap. We've done a lot of work on this project already. I'm not going to go through every single one of these bullet points. These slides will be posted on our project website, most likely pretty early tomorrow. But we did a whole kickoff and needs assessment where we did data collection, community engagement with all kinds of stakeholders, including this body. Went through our concept development selection, held a couple of public meetings, shared public concepts publicly, took a lot of feedback and refined those concepts. ANC 1B did send a letter of support for the bus lane concept. So thank you for that engagement. And we sent our concept selection letter in August of 2024. During 2025, we have kind of had to sort out a few changes to the scope of this project and kind of figuring out that western end of the corridor, what we could do in this project versus what needs to be done as part of a bigger future project was one of those key things. So we did, kind of figure out the scope of this project. We made a few tweaks to the overall design, and we have kind of re-advanced or have reinitiated the design work. And so that is going full steam ahead. And so we're, back on track. Right now, issuing, project updates. We're not like reopening the goals of this project or the concept, at large. However, of course, we're always, open to hearing your thoughts and feedback. Our plan is for, later next year, once we're at about the 65% design milestone with this project, issue our notice of intent. That would, of course, come with a minimum 30 business day comment period. And the plan is to go, finish design work and do construction in 2027. So just a note on the Florida Ave project. So we did a lot of planning and outreach, starting in 2023. We shared a couple of alternative concepts in late 2023. Based on the traffic volumes on Florida Ave and the interventions we were looking at with, full-time bus lanes, that was going to require a really much more in-depth level of traffic analysis in order for us to do our environmental analysis that we do for any of our roadway projects. Since we're already, farther along on the U Street project, and we expect that to really change the nature of the corridor, because we're going to be going down from two general purpose travel lanes on U Street down to one feeding into Florida Ave. We expect those traffic volumes to change significantly. And so we felt it didn't really make sense to invest, hundreds of thousands of dollars and a year of analysis with baseline data that didn't really make sense or reflect what the future reality would be. And so our current plan, given those constraints, given our staffing constraints as well, to advance both of these projects simultaneously was to put the Florida Avenue project on hold for now. We do plan on picking it up again, but there is a pin in it at the moment. So I did, we do for, as you heard, when we did our initial project planning for this project, a whole needs assessment, looking at bus service along the corridor. I will note, WMATA has implemented their better bus network redesign. And so, certain things about the bus network have changed. And so for all of our projects, we're making sure, does this project still make sense as we've envisioned it based on any changes to the network, or any, changes to the operations along the corridor. We do believe that, yes, it still does make a lot of sense to proceed. The C53 and C51 together are a high frequency, make up a high frequency corridor. The C53 is 24-hour service in the high frequency network with WMATA, and they've now moved to running 60-foot articulated buses. So, really require, thoughtful infrastructure. And so this is good timing for us to be, able to refine our designs for this. I'd also note the C53 is currently the highest ridership single route in the whole network for the entirety of WMATA service area. Over 14,000 average weekday riders in September. That is the top single route. Bus speeds are still slow, as I'm sure you all are aware. Congestion issues, especially at the PM peak and into the late night, persist. We'll note that our concept planning did look at some bus stop consolidation and rebalancing. WMATA has already implemented some of those recommendations. So the stop pairs at U and 17th, 15th, and 11th have already been consolidated to improve the bus stop spacing along the corridor. And so that's one, aspect that we were planning as part of our project that we're, no longer need to implement ourselves, as that's already being done. So just a reminder, we did extensive community engagement. We heard a lot about the speeds and reliability of buses, a lot of concerns around double parking, pickup and drop off, issues along the corridor. And then safety being the number one issue. And, because it is, as I mentioned, a tier 1 high injury network corridor, that is the primary thing we need to address. So, yeah. So in August 2024, we did select a final concept, just to go through a few of the features as a reminder. So this is an example, kind of like one of the most typical intersections, although, not all of them are exactly as such, but we're looking at offset bus lanes. Those are the most effective types of bus lane we have in the district, because they don't conflict with curbside access. So it still retains parking and other curbside uses. And so that means that people don't park in the bus lane, and they remain clear, much more so than curbside lanes. We are, because of high pedestrian volumes and high turning volumes along the corridor, we're also planning to have right turn pockets so that turning vehicles that are like waiting for pedestrians to clear the intersection don't sit in the bus lane, and instead can pass through the bus lane and wait in their own dedicated space. This space also can serve pretty flexibly for like very quick, informal pickup and drop off activities. As we know, like if there's open space on the curb, someone's going to go use it. And so these turn pockets can have that dual purpose as well. Bus stop bulb outs. So all the bus stops will be in-lane stops. So that reduces merging and, the buses have to do. That speeds them up, makes them more reliable, and it improves access, as, the bus can always get to the curb in those situations. So people who, need to step straight from the curb don't have to, go into the road, or, especially for people with wheelchairs or mobility devices, or, kids, people with, strollers. And so better access at all our bus stops. A couple of things, the two boxes on the bottom. So first, left turns are going to be largely prohibited off of the corridor, except where we can provide for dedicated turn pockets and signal phasing. And so we're going to focus those turning movements at 16th Street and at Vermont, in the eastbound direction, and then in the westbound direction at Florida and 18th at the west end. Because this is primarily a safety project, those left turns from the general traffic lane when there's not a turn pocket or dedicated signal are like the most dangerous maneuvers on the corridor. Also, as we're dropping down to one general purpose travel lane, and providing the bus lane, those prohibiting lefts and providing a few left turn pockets is going to make traffic move a lot better. And so this is really also a traffic mitigation strategy as well. And then just a final flag, minimal parking impacts. Those numbers I've flagged at the bottom right there. Those are rough. We're going to be getting more precise as we move into the design phase. But we do have to provide those spaces for those right turn pockets, a few, lane shifts and bus stop changes. Our initial tally is a very slight reduction of around 29 parking spaces reduced out of over about 229. So it's about 12%. And like I said, those are estimates likely to change, but that's our initial estimate at the moment. So there's been a few changes to flag since we made that concept selection official. And so some of it stems from some action that the DC Council took in the fiscal year 2025 budget. So led by Councilmember Nadeau, there was additional money dedicated to this project and to DDOT to study and construct a few aspects along the corridor. The first was sidewalk widening at the 1500 block north side. So that's that top image. So it's a very narrow sidewalk, pinch point, really like uncomfortable to walk along. And so we, as part of this project, are going to be able to address that actually. That temporarily closed like with the curb, those wheel stops and the flex posts there where the slip lane was. That can be all filled in and enclosed and made like a much nicer pedestrian area and closed off with permanent materials, so new, fresh concrete to make that nice and comfortable and safe. The second issue is the southbound slip lane, which is that diagonal lane onto New Hampshire Avenue from southbound 16th or westbound U Street. And so what we observed was, a lot of, high speed turning movements across that, really inhospitable to pedestrians and cyclists, and one of the more dangerous maneuvers on the corridor. And so we had to do some initial analysis, some traffic analysis to look at like impacts to traffic and diversions that would result from closing that. But so that it looks to be minimal impacts. And so that's encouraging. We can basically enlarge that island, that pedestrian island there that you see that the person in the red is standing on, and enable just bikes and pedestrians to enter the southbound New Hampshire. I'll show you a more detailed graphic of what we got planned on the next slide. And then finally, some of that funding that was appropriated in that budget, in the 2025 budget, is going to go to that future safety and mobility project to look at widening the sidewalks, reconstructing the 1700 block, and likely reconfiguring and doing a total overhaul on the U18th Vernon intersection. So that project we do expect to launch next year. We are currently working on staffing that team, and so it's a little bit resource dependent, but we do expect to have those positions filled and that project going next year. So you will hear about that at a future time. So just to zoom in on this, since this is the really the one substantive change to our concept plan, the U16th New Hampshire intersection on the right, you can see the existing conditions, and I kind of drew those turning movements. And you can see that because they're much more like a wider angle than a right angle, cars take it really fast, and so those are the real problem movements we're trying to address here. And so on the left, you've got kind of our conceptual plan showing a much larger island at that intersection, and so much more space for pedestrians. However, we do allow bikes to come in and on and off of New Hampshire through that space, but that won't be big enough for a car. In the northern part, where this is a much expanded sidewalk area on that north side of the street, and this whole pedestrian area is going to be expanded and made much more comfortable. One thing, in order to provide dedicated left turn signals and not create like tons of bottleneck and delay, for the buses, we are going to be eliminating the bike signal that currently allows bikes to do this diagonal movement from New Hampshire southbound. And so we're going to mark it, and we think this is a much safer maneuver anyway, because we noticed a lot of bikes just riding like through the whole intersection diagonally. And so this is going to set up markings for a two-stage bike crossing. And as a bike rider myself, I think this is a better treatment as well. And so this is really the main big changes. And so you can also see the bus stop relocations, moving all the bus stops to the far side of the intersection, which improves safety, and getting them as in-lane bus stops, reducing delay at the intersection as well. So those are the main changes here. I do see a hand up. I only have a couple more slides. I don't know how you want to handle comments, but
Yeah, let's just wait if you only have a couple more.
I'm happy to wait until he's finished, but I do want to focus on this particular slide.
sounds
Okay.
good. I'll get through last
then we'll-
couple slides, and we can come back and do it more detailed. Yeah. So this is my last slide actually. So next steps. As of right now, we're advancing our design. It's currently in process, doing kind of a round of update to stakeholders. And so you guys are the recipients of like the first public presentation on this. We are happy to present at other ANCs and with other stakeholders, working on our outreach right now. And reminder, 2026 and into 27, issuing our notice of intent, finishing design work, and going to construction. So that does wrap up all my slides. And so I'm happy to go back to whatever parts of the presentation if you'd like, or answer any other questions.
Yeah, let's go back to that 16th and U slide. I also have a question about it. Very excited about the sidewalk widening at the pinch point on the northeast corner. I think that'll be great. With the change to New Hampshire, will that still remain a one-way southbound street?
Yes.
Okay. So the only access street.
The only access is from U Street eastbound prior to 16th.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I think people will be challenged by this idea, but I do think updating the geometry to be more like a regular intersection will just have tremendous safety benefits. Crossing here is one of the worst places to cross in the corridor. So I think it's great that you guys are trying to figure that out. Okay, Karen?
Hi, Andrew. I like the improvements. They're nice. I'm just curious to see exactly how that closing off New Hampshire Avenue, which I frequently see used by our emergency vehicles, how that is going to work, especially with the fire engines that use that as a way to, and the accessibility for any of the residents that live along that street to have their emergency care.
Yeah, I mean, the FEMS reviews our plans. We coordinate with them on all of these. This hasn't raised any issues. They have several ways to get to that block already. So that has not come up as a concern.
It has come up as a concern in our meetings before, and that's the reason why I'm bringing it up again. I don't know if you had that listed in your list of concerns from the community. So I'm bringing that up again. I know you're new to this project.
Yeah, did FEMS flag it directly?
It was a flag before, and I also got it flagged from MPD. So that's the reason why I'm asking this. And what type of feedback? And you're saying that they haven't given you any feedback on it, or they said that they had another alternative?
They did not provide feedback on this. No red flags on this to my knowledge. And we for all of our projects, we coordinate with those agencies. And so we will make sure to be doing that throughout. And so if it is an issue, we'll be sure to work with them.
Well, I work with them, and that's why I was bringing that up to you, because I heard it from them directly. And so I would love to hear some feedback from, if you all can give us some thorough feedback specifically about that, where you have a sign off from that so that I can sort of know exactly how to give that information to the community. Thank you.
Okay.
So on the plus side, the fire station is off the left edge of the screen right here, so that they would still have access via U Street.
Yes, you're right, Ben. You're right, but they were the ones who brought that up. That's the reason why I was bringing that up again.
Great. Let's go to Jay.
Thank you. As somebody that's in the chat, I'm also really excited about this intersection change in particular because I also have experienced how unpleasant this intersection is walking and biking. My question actually, though, is quickly about the parking reduction estimates. I wonder if those account for streeteries that may have already removed functionally parking along the corridor, especially at the east end. And so that may even reduce further the sort of percentage that is being taken out.
Yeah, I am not 100% sure how those numbers incorporate streeteries. As you know, the whole streetery regime is shaken out right now. So, as we move the project forward, we'll have more solid numbers. The point was to illustrate that for the treatments we're doing, it's minimal parking impacts. So. Yeah, as we move forward and once we get into like a more permanent streetery regime where we have a little more certainty and get further into design where we like understand the geometry of all the treatments we're doing, we'll get more real with those numbers. That was just to like give a real rough illustration, but good question.
Steve.
Andrew, thanks for the presentation. No question, just wanted to quickly mention appreciation for the dedicated bus lanes and the sidewalk widening as someone who cycles to work, walks usually these areas and whatnot. I think this will be a great improvement, and I wish it could come sooner. Thanks.
Angela.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation as well. This is really helpful. I just have a quick question. You mentioned briefly about changes to the bike signal, particularly as you're traveling New Hampshire crossing 16th. So I noticed that the new pattern sort of crosses pedestrian traffic, and as you're heading southbound, that light is notoriously very, very short. Can you talk just a little bit about the changes that you're anticipating to that signal to extend it, and particularly where you have the bike lane intersecting or going parallel to pedestrian traffic? Are there going to be any safeguards for pedestrian traffic and not colliding with a bike going south?
Yeah, so this is a that's a great question. This is a pretty standard treatment to do what we call a bike walk adjacent to a crosswalk. And so this allows bikes to proceed with the pedestrian signal, with the walk signal. And this is like at most intersections where we have bike lanes. By getting rid of that diagonal, we're actually able to improve the signal timing for all other movements, because basically, if you've got 120 seconds on your whole signal timing and you need 10 seconds for just that like one diagonal bike movement, you then have less time for all the other movements. And so this can actually, we haven't done our full signal design on it yet, but it could open up a few extra seconds for pedestrians crossing. And it definitely will help buses, which, we have a lot of buses on 16th as well. So one of our challenges here is we've got two intersecting streets that we want to give priority to get buses through as quickly as possible. And so having those extra like dedicated signal phases, take time away from that. And so this achieves, better signal timing overall and improved safety. So I'm pretty happy with where this is going, and think it's a good solution.
David.
Well, I literally live on this intersection at the Balfour, so can't tell you how many accidents I've almost witnessed from my window. So this is phenomenal work. I appreciate it. I think the big thing for me is like the right turn lane going west on U Street. A lot of people just use it to go straight, and then they realize that there's parking right ahead of them, and then they have to merge, and it creates a horrible situation. So the bus lane seems to fix that. I love what you're doing. I had a question, but it was Angela took it from me about the bike signaling. So thank you for the answer, and thank you for your work.
Great.
Let's go to Nick.
Thanks. Thank you, Andrew. Great presentation. I'm also really excited to see these great design improvements. I know you're not there in the process yet, but just wanted to stress the importance of signage, especially for this kind of up New Hampshire bike movement, which is a bike movement I've personally started making a lot more recently. Yeah, the green paint and the bike crosswalk will be really, really great. And I know you all will get to the signage details in your final design, but just wanted to stress that, especially for those who may not be familiar with this type of bike crossing. But great work, and thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Let's go to Karen, and then we'll go to the audience.
And Andrew, I was just wondering, we're talking about the bike signals. They're a little obscure because they're so high in some places. Is it possible to make the signals a little larger and easier and lower? That's sort of at the height where bikers can see them because they're so high. And I don't know if they're serving the best purposes for bikers. And it's really, really helpful because I've seen it in various locations where they're extremely high. And I'm like, how can a biker look all the way up to see the location for these signals? Is it possible to lower it and make them larger for bikers and pedestrians to see? And
We have a
drivers
few
too.
options for how we can install them, but like as I mentioned, for this project will not have any bike signals, and we're actually removing the one bike signal on the corridor. So
Great. Brian Romanowski, I'm gonna allow you to talk.
Hey, good to be with you all. I have 4 questions. I'll try to move quickly through them. So, the first, Andrew, is cars for this New Hampshire intersection, cars that would have been going southbound on New Hampshire from the traveling west on U Street. Now, what they would have to do is either go left on 16th and then down to S if they were trying to still get that way, or over to 18th Street and down 18th Street, if that sounds correct to you. I'm just wondering if you've thought about impacts on S Street, because I think the next logical place that they would turn onto New Hampshire would be by the dog park, which is New Hampshire and S, where there's a stop sign. So that intersection is already a little bit scary. So I just want to make sure if we think traffic will increase there, that we're planning for that one, or if you have any thoughts on that. That's the first question. I guess I'll stop after each one.
So yeah, so I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the analysis that we did on this change includes a diversion analysis where we basically model different movements and look at the traffic volumes and expected changes on different streets as a result of this change. It's pretty minimal. And like based on our analysis, there's no street that couldn't handle it or intersection that couldn't handle it. And so that's basically the thrust of the analysis we did. If we need to dig in on the actual numbers that we modeled, I can pull those and get back to you. I don't have them at my fingertips.
Okay. Second question.
Great question. Yeah.
Second question is about the bike lanes, which I think this is unrelated to the bus project, but just if you guys are going to do all of this, then I would love for you to consider moving the bike lanes along the curb for the south of U Street and the north of U Street. And the parking can remain, the parking would just shift outward as you've done in many other spots. But I've always thought that the southbound bike lane with the counterflow bike, the northbound bike lane with the southbound traffic has always been so scary, as cars that are going south and want to park in the curb spaces on the other side of the bike lane pull through you, and often are not going slow to do that maneuver. So if you guys can look into that at all or send it to the bike team after this, that'd be great.
Yeah, as you probably know, the bikeways team is managing our new strategic bikeways plan. We've got some workshops coming up and open houses, I definitely suggest adding those comments into the mix as we come up with our future bike network and changes that we're looking at. It's good feedback.
Okay, and then two more, sorry. The no left turns on U Street. Can you talk a little bit more about that and where people can turn left? You were saying 16th Street and I think 18th Street. I just want to make sure I understood that.
Correct. So 16th is the one intersection where you've got turns available in both directions. Going westbound, at 18th at the end of the corridor is one, and then going eastbound at Vermont are the lefts that will be enabled.
Okay. And then last thing, the area by Vita on U Street, the gym, there's a curb cut for, I don't really know, maybe a utility there. Like, I don't know if that's a Metro vent, in front of the hair salon, Bang, that's part of the gym. Is there a way to close that curb cut? I've always never understood what that was for. Maybe it's, like I said, maybe it's a Metro, and then either return parking there or shift some of the bike parking. Like, I feel like there's some space there that I've never understood.
I can take a look at that. I don't know.
Okay,
but
thanks.
good flag.
Beneath.
Hey, sorry, I totally lied. I have a question now. So I was just looking at this and realizing like sometimes going from the northeast to the southwest corner can take a good while as a pedestrian. Has there been any thoughts of like a diagonal crosswalk?
Yeah, we actually did analyze that in when we were considering our options. That certainly there's some attractive things about that. The big problem is the amount of delay it would create for buses, both on 16th and U Street, because you'd need a whole dedicated cycle, and it has to be a pretty long phase within the cycle to get across a big intersection like this. And so the trade-off here, it would be significant bus delay, and as a bus priority project, that was we decided not to do that. We feel like this strikes the balance between comfort for pedestrians as well as not doing anything to mess up bus speeds too much, and so that was kind of the decision-making process.
Makes sense. Thank you.
I see there's one more question in the audience. Patrick Eusted, I'm gonna allow you to talk.
Hey, thanks for the presentation. Definitely a cool project. I'm really looking forward to it. Just wanted to mention, and I know this is just a rough sketch for this intersection, but the northeast corner, the way it looks, it feels like it would be kind of tight for the amount of space that you allow for cyclists and pedestrians to mix at that northeast corner as they wait for whichever light they're waiting for, whichever direction they're headed. So just wanted to flag that. Hopefully DDOT and the team can make sure that enough space is accounted for as you design that corner.
Yep, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. One last question from me. I just don't remember. Are all the bus stops getting bump outs, or is it only in select locations? All of them?
All bus stops will be bulbed out in lane. We hope to build them all out of concrete, with permanent materials. Likely that the one at it's a new stop location at the westbound stop at Vermont, like right at the metro station. Because of the metro vents there, we may have to use temporary materials, the Zikla green and white platforms you see around. Other than that, we expect to build everything with concrete, make them really nice.
Excellent. Okay. Final question from Jay.
I just wanted to flag that Nicole and I put a couple of links in the chat for folks who are interested in more information about the strategic bikeways plan that Andrew mentioned. In particular, there's a workshop coming up next Thursday for Ward 2 down at MLK Library.
Excellent. Thanks. Okay. Well, as you can see, there's a lot of interest in this project, Andrew. So I think people will be eagerly awaiting the 65% design plans and the notice of intent. Thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm going to, once I log off, I'll put my info in the chat. Folks, everyone should feel free to reach out anytime. And I'll, share the project website as well, so folks can check this out on their own.
Great. And are this presentation is going to be on the website or?
Yeah, it should be up tomorrow.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Yep, thank you so much.
Okay, good questions, everyone. So next, we're gonna go to the streetery resolution. I sent this around. Hopefully some people got a chance to look at it. Okay. So this is really coming out of that, as I mentioned, the roundtable from last week. Chair Trindade Duramo actually spoke at it, and I think based off of what he was hearing from that and feedback from some of our businesses, but also especially I think some of our neighboring ANCs and the businesses there, like Adams Morgan and Mount Pleasant, to be in like DuPont, where there are also a lot of streeteries on like 17th and 18th and Mount Pleasant Street. People are concerned that the new regulations might make them not feasible. So basically the resolution kind of lays out that sentiment up at the top. So talking about how the guidelines were adopted, talking about the public space rental fees, how they're set to be $20 a square foot, I believe. So people are saying that's infeasible for most restaurants that currently operate them, resulting in the removal of existing outdoor dining structures and just incentivizing new businesses from joining the program. Whereas Claude's talking about the investments that people have made into it, and how these changes and not being able to use the streeteries will be detrimental. Just kind of references our last resolution, saying that we kind of like agree with the notion that like the bad streeteries, if they're not maintained, could be hazardous. This one here just saying that like the streetery program exists, but the new regulations don't kind of don't align with like the goal or intention of having a streetery program if there's no people participating. Then just asking DDOT to work a better solution that still incorporates good design and health and safety regulations, but doesn't render it completely useless. Asking to extend the deadline for compliance till March 31st. What's this one? Oh, this one's suggesting dropping that $20 per square foot to $5 per square foot. So still having, still having some skin in the game, still paying for the public space that they're using, but making it a lower number, more in line with like a sidewalk cafe, the cost that people pay for that as opposed to this high streetery fee. In the design guidelines, there are some setbacks from like tree boxes and other public infrastructure. A lot of the businesses are feeling that like these setbacks make some of the streeteries like prohibitively small, like reducing the size of one from maybe like 10 seats to 5 or even smaller in some instances. So like certain businesses, depending on kind of the infrastructure around them, like wouldn't be able to operate one at all. So just kind of like asking them to remove those requirements. And this one is supporting businesses with existing structures and transition, prioritizing reconfigurations of structures that block travel lanes and sight lines. So they aren't causing safety issues. And then finally, just asking them to work collaboratively to work on these issues. So that's kind of the resolution. Is kind of a longer one, so there might be a lot to talk about. I see some hands are raised. Jay?
Yeah, I have sort of three comments on the resolution from looking at it this afternoon. First off, with regard to the fee, I think part of my concern is that it has sounded like a lot of the concern is often an assumption that that fee was going to be monthly rather than annually. Um, but perhaps more to the point, I think in our resolved clause, rather than naming that particular $5 fee, I think it should just say, equal to that for sidewalk cafes, which I believe is currently that $5 for unenclosed and $10 for enclosed seating. Just so that, in the future, basically it allows DDOT to set a rate and have it be equal across the kinds of implementations. I think part of the issue that has come up is that that fee has not been raised in like decades. And so the department feels it's a little out of step. I don't necessarily agree that $20 per square foot per year is necessarily the right amount. But I also don't want to say that it should, that we should keep it just at 5. I think it should be equivalent to whatever a similar, uh, sidewalk cafe fee would be.
Great. That's a great
I
suggestion.
think with regard to the setbacks, I think that there certainly are some of those that are probably unnecessary or that are too much, but I also want to know, especially what is meant by, sidewalks, transportation barriers, and recognized streetscape components, because a lot of the sort of existing streeteries, I'm thinking particularly about like, 11th and U, but also 17th and Church, they're right up against crosswalks and things, and it can be really difficult both as a pedestrian and as a bike rider to see people, going the other direction and make sure that you're not going to run into someone. So I think, you know, I want to avoid essentially continuing to permit those that make it difficult to see other people.
That makes sense. What about in this instance? Do you think it is better to be more specific or less specific? Like, what if we said like soft, like this says recommends the elimination of required setbacks. We could say something that's like softens setbacks or loosens setback requirements so as not to like overly prescribe. Like, it could be something like that without listing the either without
Yeah,
listing items or you know.
yeah, I'm sort of, I guess, open to hearing what other people
Okay.
think, because I'm not actually sure what the original regulation is intended to do here.
Yeah. Okay. We can.
I mean, the next whereas after covers the sightlines question, right? So by setbacks in that paragraph, we're talking about like tree boxes, right?
Yeah. So it's the tree box one. It's the third to the last, and then it says the next one is resolved that the commission requests that DDOT in supporting businesses with existing streeteries in transitioning to the permanent program prioritize reconfigurations of structures that block travel lanes or sight lines for vehicular, bicycle, and pedestrian traffic. So that talks about the sightline one.
Yeah, I guess I'm not even sure what is meant by transportation barriers and recognized streetscape components. Like, I don't know what we're trying to do here. A lot of so,
I
um,
Yeah,
I was thinking that the transportation barriers would be similar to someone who was using, if you're using your scooters, those any type of way in which people aren't able to circumvent the streeteries without running into issue. Because if you're in any mobility device, if even if you use the little the Lime scooters, etc., it's really hazardous to maneuver around some of those streeteries. And I do understand the sight lines where you can't see what's going on, and it's possible that you can end up running into traffic because someone doesn't see you coming around the streetery if you're at a low level. So I'm thinking that that's what it meant, and that's and I and I don't know if you're finished with your portion of your share, Jay, before I go into my section that I wanted to add to talk
I
about.
just have one other comment, which is in that next clause, where we say prioritize reconfigurations of structures that block travel lanes. I would just suggest adding bike lanes and walkways.
travel lanes. So like right here,
Yeah,
I'll not do parentheses, but bike lanes and walkways. Is that what you said?
yeah.
Okay.
Just because, there are certainly some in other parts of the city uh, that have had a tendency to expand into a neighboring bike lane, and so, just as we're saying they should help people not block travel lanes, we should also make sure that they're not blocking bike lanes and crosswalks and other walkways. So that's all I got. Thanks.
I
That
think
makes sense.
I think that Jay, the point about the bike lanes and walkways, it may be similar to the travel lanes that you're talking about. So so it doesn't seem so redundant. I like the way in which you worded it. Does that make sense? And I'm asking as a just rhetorically, does that make sense?
Uh,
Does it all seem at one and the same?
so sometimes travel lanes, sometimes engineers and planners use travel lanes just to talk about vehicular travel lanes.
Okay. So
Like,
since we're talking about pedestrian travel,
mhm.
and I was actually referring to it from a pedestrian point of view, because I really know that navigating those spaces it's never really made for people who use various small device traveling. So and not just for bicycles. So I just really want to see that space to be ADA compliant, to see those spaces be compliant for all type of mobility devices, scooters, wheelchairs, mobility devices, etc. So I don't know what type of travel lane, or does it have its own particular lingo type in regards to the transportation industry to to layer that out. So that was my one thing. But Jay, are you finished sharing before I start?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so my interest is to see. Um, I was listening to the way bringing in the garden, the summer gardening offerings, just like you would do with the APCA committees. And
Mhm.
there's a for each one of the ANCs, there's a settlement agreement, and we the way these streeteries are built out, especially since we're in this situation where they get to be abandoned or treated improperly, or I just think that there needs to be some good arrangements made with each one of the establishments, even though the ones who can use streeteries are not normally on APCA's list because that's only for alcohol serving. I think that if you have a streetery in the neighborhood, that there needs to be an agreement between the local ANC and the establishment that you are going to maintain it in the best way possible, so we're not left in the lurch with this abandonment situation, and that everyone knows based on a community agreement what we think a good streetery is like. I just sat with Adams Morgan and they have a setup, and I think that this ANC should really have something in place that gives some type of good requirements on what it looks like aesthetically, and also as we're adding in these particular parameters. That's my take on it. Thank you.
Yeah, Karen, I think that's a good point. I think in the future, and maybe we can add some language in here if we can come up with it real quick. But so if they apply, I think maybe if they apply for permits in the future, like right now, we haven't gotten a lot of them, but like if a new sidewalk cafe, if a new restaurant applies for like a sidewalk cafe in public space, we do get notifications for that. And there's an opportunity for the ANC to weigh in. We just haven't gotten a lot this term or any really, but it is a thing we get a notification for and can weigh in. So I think in the future, the streeteries will work the same. So I think if we should build that into our kind of like operating procedures, that like as these applications come through, that we comment on them, you know?
Yes, if there's a standard, set of guidelines, so that the community knows that this is acceptable, this is unacceptable, and if you have those guidelines in place, it allows any new establishment who's interested in having it to know right off the start what works and what doesn't work. And so, if you already have that laid out on your website, it really does help with being cohesive with the community when they come in to bring their business to the community.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a future special project for the committee to work on.
Oh Lord, look, I just finished with one thing. I know if I bring it up, I know I better come with some receipts. So I'll try my best to help with setting that up. I know
Just
Johnny's
because that
gonna
would,
help me too, and
yeah.
Jay and Johnny. I haven't heard from Johnny all meeting. What happened to him?
um, Johnny, if you want to respond, you can respond now, but I am going to call him Ben.
Okay. Yeah. So the running gag is however much space they're permitted, they're going to take up 2 or 3 feet more on sidewalk cafes and on streeteries. On streeteries, it matters more because there's travel lanes, and if you're going 2 feet into the next travel lane over, that's kind of a big deal. And I think we can all think of examples where that happens. So yeah, I like Karen's idea of guidelines. Can those be enforced? Is that something we should put in the resolution, or can we just trust that enforcement will actually happen?
So I think any kind of like guiding principles that the ANC comes up with, that we would be like, these are the kinds of streeteries that like we would support in a public space application. I don't know that those could truly be enforced. That's kind of just like a gentleman's agreement, I suppose. But the DDOT design regulations and the setbacks and all those, presumably, well, those can be enforced. Whether DDOT will enforce them, that's a whole separate issue.
Yeah. So is that something that should be in our resolution here?
Yes,
Given that,
because that's
I
the
mean,
great way.
Yeah. So if we have some language on it real quick, we could. I think we do have the previous resolution, which was more about enforcement and removing non-compliant ones and things like that. So I do think we did weigh in on that. And this resolution, at least in spirit, is a little bit more we think, well, if you guys agree, but like the resolution is arguing that the new regulations are too onerous. So asking them to be like loosened and the fee to be reduced, which is kind of different than stringent enforcement, you know?
Well, and thank you, Ben. I really appreciate that support. But I think that I don't think it's stringent. I think we would not have had to write about the removing of the abandoned streeteries had we had guidelines in place. And I do know that with the DDOT will, of course, they always come to the ANCs for feedback from the community, and being proactive to provide exactly what works, especially with this whole U Street project and all the other projects. If you have these things in place and let DDOT know, okay, this is what we would like to have in regards to the streeteries, especially since it's a new project, this is the best time to get the type of community guidelines and feedback in place right now. That's my suggestion.
Okay, I'm wondering where that would go.
You can probably just do 5 bullet points for now with the future planning on the possibility of the ANC bringing forward guidelines for local establishments who are interested in streeteries. And I think if you have that in the layout, the community layout, it already says that you're fostering, you're trying to keep that type of those parameters in place, so no one just overrides it, and then whoever comes in after you guys, they can have that in the archives of understanding.
I kind of want to, so I think like if we came up with, there's the overarching standards and regulations that DDOT has, and if then we wanted to have ANC 1B standards and regulations that we support of like the types of streeteries that we prefer or we think work for our neighborhood, I think that's a whole separate document than this one, because we wouldn't send
Of course it is.
well, so that
I agree with you. I agree, but I really think I don't want to dilute what you're doing now with this document, because I really think that you need to have some standards in regards to the streeteries. Otherwise, we will go backwards to what we just did a resolution on. It's just, I think that it needs to be some operating procedures for streeteries, and that's the reason why I was thinking a settlement agreement type for each one of them is, and if you have it already laid out, and I think that if you do that, it should be separate. I don't want to dilute what you're writing up now, so it should be separate.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think this resolution we're going to send to DDOT, and the other one would be like a policy standard operating procedures that the ANC refers to. They're just different documents. Okay, but do people feel like we should have another enforcement resolve clause in here? That to me is the biggest outstanding change. So one change to the resolution as written is just striking the language about $5 per square foot and replacing it with permitting fee equivalent to sidewalk cafes, just to kind of match the programs. And then the other one I think is to soften the language for the elimination of the required setbacks, because there's like some debate about like the public infrastructure, and I would suggest changing it just to be resolved that the commission recommends reducing required setbacks from publicly owned infrastructure, and then not listing out what that is, because DDOT already has a list of that, and so we don't need to replicate that.
I agree with that suggestion, personally.
Okay. So any other suggestions for improvement?
So can I be an economist for a second here? But so the sidewalk cafes don't take up revenue generating space, right? So if you're in these straighterries, take up parking spaces that generate for the city revenue of like I don't know, like $100 a day over the course of the 365 days a year. So it seems like pricing things to the alternatives that they should be priced higher than sidewalk cafes.
Oh, that's
It,
a good one, Ben.
is
I
that
agree. Because you're right. Because look at how much we have to pay for parking. Look at how much I
mhm.
agree with that. Because and if you scale it, as you mentioned, Ben, I would not scale it to the sidewalk cafes. I would scale it to parking. I if you tie it like that, but will it get caught up in that proprietary parking zone thing that they have that test pilot program out now that's not generating any money? Or could you attach it to the DMV RPP program? Is that what you're talking
Yeah.
about, Ben?
I mean, they can't fully replace the cost of parking because that would be tens of thousands of dollars and not just like one year $20 a square foot kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, it is kind of different space. It's not entirely identical. So
It's different space, but then the
yeah.
streeteries also become revenue generating through sales tax increased.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If the businesses can generate more turnover and more seats because of the use of the space, and the city is making money from it.
Also,
Yeah, but the same is true for
because
the sidewalk cafe, right? So
the amount of money that we charge for parking is actually quite low. So if especially if it were to go to the cost of an RPP space, that's what, $70 a year? Uh, the math on how much a metered parking space, which most of these are, would bring in is uh squishier, but those are it's I think similar. It's on the order of $1,000 or $2 per parking space, which is typically around 200 to 240 square feet per year.
Well, see,
okay,
the
so
reason why they can charge such a low number is because you have property tax that people are already paying. So
Right, and these
the question,
restaurants are already
yeah,
paying sales tax,
they're paying taxes.
as Matt said, on the what they're selling in these spaces.
mm, I didn't
But
look at from the revenue
yeah,
side.
I would just recommend maybe instead of saying equal to sidewalk, it could be commensurate with sidewalk or proportional to.
Okay, proportional to sidewalk cafe. Okay, so change it to that. Kind of make the
Not a huge thing.
language squishier about the setbacks. Anything else?
Hmm.
Okay. If not, then what before I like call a vote, do people feel who has a hand raised? Oh, hey, Angela. Did you have a hand raised?
Oh yeah, sorry. Does the guidelines have any suggested frequency for the inspections of this? Did you mention enforcement?
Hmm.
Now, the guidelines are going to be separate, Angela.
Okay.
Well, I think the DDOT guidelines.
The DDOT guidelines. Oh, okay.
It's a good question. that I'm trying to frantically Google right now, so I don't know.
We can put a flag in it. Just curious.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a part of this resolution. I'm just
Okay.
curious what it is.
Yeah, so I don't
even think DDOT has been inspecting these streeteries the way they should be, and that's really really important. That's the reason why I had made the suggestion in regards to the ANCs having a settlement agreement with each one of the establishments who has a streetery, so that they won't abandon them. They won't just have some type of whatever spectacle that doesn't meet the community guidelines. And then also with this resolution has indicated that there also are they're abiding by ADA compliance. They also have they're not a traffic issue, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that that's really important. But outside of the actual construction, that's where DDOT has been saying that those are their guidelines with the materials in which it's made of, the actual spacing of it. Those seem to be the main things that I see DDOT really focusing on. But as far as inspection and collecting the debris when it's being abandoned or not in use, I have not seen them do any real oversight on those areas, Angela.
Okay. No, thank you. I appreciate that. I'll just flag just super quickly the issue that I have that I don't see in this .gov doc. I've seen so many times on 14th Street, if you're going northbound and you're making that right turn in front of like St. X, ride shares will pull up right next to what used to be the Compass Rose streetery right there. Great. We all love it. But I've seen so many accidents and so many near misses, particularly of pedestrians in that circle. And I would love to see barriers that prevent ride shares from just making that left turn to almost come into contact with people walking and biking. So
yeah, that's a great point. There is a whole section, it's like too much to read right now. There's a whole section on like fines and infractions that can be levied on the streeteries now under the new guidelines. So there seems to be, that is one thing that we're lacking now, right? And this like kind of the problem with the temporary program is they never set up anything like that because it was always going to be, oh, we're waiting for the permanent guidelines. So like the new guidelines do have like a permit can be revoked if certain things, they're failing to comply with certain things, and the city would force them to remove them, and then they can be fined. So hopefully some of those changes would solve for some of the existing problems. Dion?
I was just doing the research while you guys were talking, and it looks like according to the guidelines, it says the PSI branch just does random inspections. There isn't a timeline given.
Okay, well, that's great to know. Thank you. Okay, so how do people feel? Do we feel good about sending this to the committee or the commission in December with the tweaks?
I
Yes.
think
Okay.
that should we do a little bit more of a deep dive research, or do you think each one of those whereas clauses can stand where they are in order to move forward?
I think because it's focused, the resolved clauses are kind of like focused on the fees and the setbacks, and then just making sure the program succeeds. I feel good about it since we're not getting into something more specific like prescribing specific guidelines or suggesting specific enforcement.
Okay. Now, and if you don't mind me asking, do we have a consensus with the committee that we should add those guidelines, or is it just a thought bubble that I had? the ANC at, and I make should I re-ask my question? Should the ANC create a guideline specific to cover oversight of the streeteries to add to the standard operations for the ANC in regards to any agreement with an establishment who wants to have a streetery in the public space in this ANC?
I think it's a good idea. I don't know if we would be able to get them to do full agreements, but if establishing something that we as the committee and then the commission like can look at quickly to help inform whether we're going to give someone a letter of support or not would be very useful. So I think it's something we can work on. I like the idea.
Okay, great.
Okay, so if there's no further questions or comments, I'm gonna move that we send the resolution to be voted on by the full ANC with the changes to the language about the fee and the setbacks.
I second it.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. All those opposed? Anyone abstaining? Great. Thanks. Good discussion. And we have a new little project to work on, thanks to Karen's suggestion. Okay. So next up is the S Street redesign resolution. I see Commissioner Fay is in the audience. Thanks for sticking with us as we work to get to you. So I'm going to pull that resolution up, and then Commissioner Fay, if you would like to elaborate, feel free. Okay. So right. Yep. Okay. So it really like lays out the history of what has happened at this intersection. So there was a S Street redesign project in April of this year. S Street was closed and kind of impacted at least the intersection, so that like kind of New Jersey, Rhode Island, Florida area, which was a very historically crazy mix of streets. And so the DDOT project team assigned to the S Street redesign indicated that the altered traffic patterns could require further revisions to the traffic signal timing to coordinate and maintain appropriate traffic flow in the area. The DDOT project team communicated its intent to return within 90 days to assess traffic flow. Traffic flow at New Jersey and Rhode Island has been impacted, creating dangerous traffic conditions for motorists and bicyclists. I think this is, and Commissioner Fay can elaborate, but this is based off of observations from neighbors in the area. Proximate to the intersection, traffic flow at Florida Avenue Northwest and 5th has been impacted to the extent that it impedes traffic flow on southbound 5th during morning and evening rush hours. The ANC, LaDroit Park Civic Association, and members of the community have repeatedly raised concerns about these conditions since August 2025, but have not received a response. And I can speak to that. I've been CC'd on several emails that have not had responses from DDOT. And then just stressing the great wait that DDOT must respond to. And then simple resolved clauses, really. The ANC calls on DDOT to conduct a traffic safety study of all traffic intersections impacted by a street redesign project, which we mentioned above, within 30 days of receiving this resolution. Let it be further resolved that DDOT communicate the findings of its traffic safety study to the ANC, LaDroit Park Civic Association, along with its plan and timeline to address and correct identified traffic safety issues. And then let it be further resolved that DDOT intend a scheduled meeting of the LPCA to present its findings and corrective action plan within 90 days of receiving this resolution. I might change that to be TPPS committee just to be parochial, but we can talk about it. Or the ANC meeting. So Commissioner Fay, would you like to speak? You're not raising your hand. Yep, okay, cool. Okay. Welcome.
Okay, thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic. So yeah, no, thank you all for considering this resolution. The S Street redesign, as Commissioner Holden said, addressed a kind of a snarled area of traffic. This was one of those 1960s era, let's build an urban highway through Washington, D.C. DDOT did a nice job of redesigning the streets to close down that urban highway and to reestablish the, excuse me, the original street grid. They did communicate that they were planning to come back out again and to pay attention to the traffic lights, the timing, make sure that everything was running smoothly and safely. And the big issue that we've observed, there's a couple different ones, but really the big one is that the way the lights are timed, particularly on northbound New Jersey, crossing Rhode Island, leaves 2 to 3 cars across Rhode Island, across Rhode Island Avenue during rush hour periods, which means that the traffic is blocked on Rhode Island in both directions. And you've got traffic kind of swerving and cutting each other off and veering into oncoming lanes. And so we've raised this concern to DDOT, asked them to come out to study it further, to change the timing of the lights as they see appropriate. We're not proposing a solution. I have stood there with my iPhone stopwatch for many, many light cycles, but I'm not proposing a solution. I would just like DDOT to come out and propose their own solution. And so we appreciate this committee's review, and hopefully the great weight of the ANC will trigger some action on behalf of DDOT.
Great, thanks, Commissioner. Jay?
Yeah, I think that actually answered one of my questions, which was just what are the dangerous traffic conditions the project is said to be causing, and maybe we could actually write that into the resolution because it's I thought pretty unclear right now. And you know, the having the signals, yeah, be timed so that they're not allowing people to cross an intersection when the next light is red and they can't go anywhere. That is certainly a problem. I thought this was referring to, things like traffic speed and flow, which I would think we would want to slow down in this residential area. And you know, I think, if it's just slowing traffic, I think that's a good thing. If it's, like you said, inducing people to block intersections, that's a different thing that I would agree is bad, and we should ask them to look more carefully at. Um, and I also agree that uh, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with a resolution telling DDOT to go to someone else's meeting, but I would be fine with saying they should come to us or to the full ANC to talk about it.
Yeah, Jay, good point, and maybe a little bit of precision would have been helpful there to really clarify. I think what I have found is that the more specific I get with DDOT, the more they feel like I'm imposing on their expertise. But the specific issue is that the northbound Florida light is red, while the northbound New Jersey light, Rhode Island light on New Jersey is green. And so what happens is you have all of this traffic northbound piling in to a backup situation where it can't go anywhere. The traffic is unaware that the light is going to turn before they're able to get through. And so you end up with three cars regularly, essentially parked on New Jersey Avenue across Rhode Island Avenue, which then creates a blockage and all the things that come from that. So I'm happy to edit that to be more clear about what the traffic safety issue is. But yeah, it's not about speed. It's really more about traffic light timing and the flow of traffic that it creates.
Nicole?
Yeah, my question is really more of just like a specific nitpick. I think overall this is a good idea. The final, be it further resolved that we already said we want to amend to talk about the TPPS committee or the full ANC instead of the LPCA, also says that we want to have this meeting to present on the findings and corrective action plan within 90 days of DDOT receiving the resolution. This one may be one for the commissioners in there. Is 90 days going to be enough time for them to have finished a traffic study and gotten results?
No.
No.
Yeah, I mean, let me comment on that very quickly and just say that I contacted this team back in August, the DDOT team, who by the way, during the duration of the redesign project was excellent, right? I mean, just absolutely outstanding. And then that team and those resources were pulled in a different direction. The reason that I am pushing for 90 days is frankly the severity of the safety issues. And if I didn't really care about solving the problem, and DDOT said they'll be on the hook for any kind of accidents that happen, cool, they can get back in a year. But the reality is there's a real safety issue. They committed that they would be back out 90 days from the completion of the project in April. And essentially what I'm hoping is that we can nudge them, even though they may come back and tell us that 90 days is unreasonable. I'm hoping to nudge them to faster action in recognition of the fact that this is something that they should have already done.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, understood. I think that, yeah, maybe you have thoughts on this, Commissioner Holden. I don't know if I think that calling on them to present within 90 days, I feel is a good ask, like to like give them that timeline. I'm unsure if, giving them a timeline that we know they can't meet is going to be better than just being like, you have to come talk to us within 90 days and tell us the status of what is going on. But I don't think that's a make or break. I just wanted to ask the question. I think overall, I do support the resolution,
Yeah.
but did want to kind of flag that.
Yeah, I mean both the 30 days and the 90 days are unrealistic, I think. And if we acknowledge that, we know that, but we're doing it as a marker in the sand for us to then, I don't know, for Commissioner Fay or the committee or whoever to then follow up with DDOT. I think that could be okay. I think what will probably happen, and it's not a reason not to do something, but what will probably happen is they will treat this as a traffic safety investigation, and they will put it into their prioritization matrix, and we'll see if it gets on their quarterly schedule for doing that. Now, they might, what Commissioner Fay is hoping for is they will see that this was already something that was programmed and this was already something that they were supposed to follow up on. And this hopefully will nudge them to just like do some cleanup and closeout of the overall project that should have already been done. But it also could just turn into a TSI that gets put into the quarterly prioritization matrix. So that's just kind of my read of the situation. Karen?
Actually, I think you, as you started speaking, you sort of answered some of my questions. But I just wanted to get have Matt let me Matt Fay this time, Commissioner Fay, let me know. Did they give you anything, any particular type of timelines? I know you said when you spoke to them that they started giving you timelines, but then you got a new group of people. But I know they don't have any particular, when it comes to severe issues, do they have a standard procedure on how they would immediately address severe issues with traffic safety? Did they tell you that, or do you have any information pertaining to that, Matt Fay?
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair question. I'd say that all of you are probably more expert in DDOT protocols than I am. The thing that I can only point to is that when they sent us a very detailed outline of their project plan, for the implementation of the S Street redesign. It included several bullet points delineating the work that they would do after the completion of the project to come back out and to study traffic flow. We had actually gone so far as to tell them, when you come back out, we're happy to stand with you. We'd like to learn how this works. But they have not come out. And then to Commissioner Holden's point, because he's been copied on all of the emails, repeated requests to DDOT to fulfill those actions that they had outlined to us originally have gone unanswered. And so what we're looking to do is to say, hey, in an email or in a letter, a formal letter to us, you said you would do these things. They haven't been done. The project looks like it needs some additional study so that you can correct the safety issues and to make things safer for the community. And we're asking you to do that.
Well,
So that's where we're at.
I know they've been undergoing a lot of staffing changes. So, and I do like that you want to pick everything back up and let them know that we're still here and we still need to have this done. I know there's a Ward 1 woman that we're dealing with. I forgot her name off the top of my head.
Ms. Keisha Anderson, who is spectacularly
Right.
non-responsive.
Oh, yeah. Look, okay. Well, you know what? I guess a one-on-one phone call to her could probably be helpful if you haven't spoke to her immediately on the phone.
I have taken every effort available to me. And this is why I'm coming to you and using your very precious time tonight.
Oh, it's not. It's not. I mean, and
Very
I
precious.
think that everybody
Very
is very
precious, Commissioner
precious,
Holden.
very precious. But I hear what you're saying. It probably takes a little bit of tweaking. We can see what we can do, I'm sure, using other channels to try to get in touch with them, I think. But hopefully this will help. I just wanted to know if you had gotten anything in writing from them in regards to what type of timeline so that we can use this to attach it to this resolution, to let them know how we've been working diligently to try to stay in touch with them. And but that was it. I appreciate that. Thank you, Matt. Faye.
Yep. And I'm happy to provide those additional documents to Commissioner Holden as part of the packet that goes to the ANC.
Thank you so much.
Jay?
I wonder if it would be helpful to note somewhat as Andrew did in our earlier presentation that this part of Florida Avenue is I believe, Tier 1 high injury corridor of the district, and New Jersey Avenue is a Tier 2 high injury corridor of the district. And, so this should be considered, a safety problem that should be bumped up the priority list because of, because it may cause further safety issues.
Is that an additional whereas clause you would like to add?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that could be.
Okay. Can you just, for me, whereas New Jersey, can you just repeat which one was Tier 1 and which one was Tier 2?
New Jersey Avenue is a Tier 2 high
New
injury
Street is
corridor.
a Tier 1.
Yeah, and
I think you
Florida
should
is
add in that they
also
lead.
Okay.
Show the connection. Show the connection between the 1 and 2, how they all go hand in hand, and that this is just a very, very and as Commissioner Fay mentioned, the severity of this particular clash of cars and pedestrians.
Okay, so my
yeah,
suggestion is to leave the first whereas clause to be S Street connector and list the intersections, and then, well, no, that's not my suggestion anymore. Sorry. I'm gonna do it. Okay, so before the ANC LaJoy Park, blah,
yeah.
blah, after like the list of the project and then the issues happening, like traffic flow, I'm adding it there.
Yeah, I would say whereas Florida, this section of Florida Avenue is on a tier 1 high injury network corridor, meaning that it is among the highest priority segments citywide, and that's coming directly off DDOT's website. And New Jersey Avenue is a tier 2 high injury network corridor segment, meaning it is a high priority for the ward.
Okay, yeah. I'm just gonna put this here as the placeholder for now, and then maybe add those two, but this, just add this whereas clause highlighting that they're on the high injury network, so they should care about every street, but they should especially care about the high injury network corridors. Okay, so add that. Oh, I added creates a dangerous traffic condition for motorists, cyclists, and pedestrians, because there was the issue Commissioner Fay brought up about like it's hard for people to cross the street because cars are essentially running the red light and like blocking the intersection.
And if you have to add in the community factor, this is a senior community. We have a lot of seniors, and then also we have the university community. If you want to add in that sort of people, highlight the type of people who are interacting in this traffic area. I always think it's good to add in that personable issue if you're interested, because we don't want our seniors getting hit, and we certainly don't want our university students getting hit, etc.
Yep. Okay, Commissioner Fay, how do you feel about that kind of inclusion?
I think it's great. I mean, I've also read that that DDOT prioritizes their traffic safety investigations on their tier 1 and tier 2 networks. So I think that's a great suggestion by Jay. And the additional comments by Ms. Gall about the impacted groups.
Just writing that all out. Seniors, okay, cool. And then, so okay, those are good. Whereas additions, just to get back to the resolved, so maybe we can wrap this one up. I'm gonna suggest, and I kind of heard this from the committee members as well, that we change the last resolve clause to say, instead of LPCA, to say TPPS committee and or ANC commission meeting. I think either one could be appropriate, and that gives them some more flexibility from DDOT for like scheduling and stuff, that like if they have both of those types of meetings to come to, then maybe they can fit it in. So that would be one resolved suggestion. And then we could keep the days, the 30 days and then the 90 days, or we could change those. I don't know what we would change them to.
I was the one who brought that up. I think that if folks who have interacted with DDOT more than I have think that it would be an effective strategy to get them out to present, then I am in favor of keeping it as is. Really, just if it's effective, we should do it, because it does seem like this is a project that has fallen off the radar and needs that attention. So I just wanted to raise that, and if those of you guys if the commissioners who interact with DDOT more than I have are like, yeah, this is what it's going to take, then let's do that. Let's do what is going to work.
Well, I don't think it's going to work, but we can try it.
I guess my concern is just that the ability to actually conduct the study and develop the findings and recommendations within that period may not be realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I mean, it's 6.
I mean,
go ahead.
One thing we could do is just like soften the language in the be it further resolved a little bit to say, meeting of the ANC, just like to present instead of like findings and corrective action plan, like to present plan for the S Street redesign project, or just like
So
instead of
striking corrective
dictating
action plan.
instead of dictating like findings, just like a report on or a plan for. I want to
present
I don't want to water it down too much where it is meaningless, but I think if we just make it clear that there needs to be follow-up on it within the 90 days.
Yeah, because it is possible, kind of what you're saying, Nicole, and I don't disagree, is that DDOT might come out and there might not, let's say they do the studies within 30 days and they can present in 90 days. They might say there is nothing wrong. There is no corrective action plan. We would not necessarily agree with that, and LaDroit Park residents might not agree with that, but it's possible that DDOT could do a safety study and determine that there's no further action.
Or
so
they might decide to just put up signs that say, don't block the intersection.
That's true. So present, I'm going to change it to present the results of the safety plans, or not plans, safety studies. Because we're asking for a safety study, but then we're also asking for a readout, and not just a report or an email, but like a presentation. So to present the results of the safety studies within 90 days. Let's keep the 90 days and the 30 days. Let's see what happens. Okay.
I would just note that if we're sending this to the commission meeting in the first week of December, the government is going to be closed for at least a quarter of that 30 days. So, give them time for things like contracting and mobilization.
I could bump it up to 45. I mean,
yeah, I might say 45.
Yeah.
Just, it again, because of the holidays and things, not necessarily because it might be reasonable at another time of year, but I think this time, given it's December, it might be even less realistic.
Right. Okay. So, 45 days, changing to TPPS or ANC Commission meeting, changing to result of safety studies as opposed to corrective action plan, adding in the language about the high injury network, adding in pedestrians. Am I missing anything else? Okay, if not, then I'd like to vote. So the motion I'm going to make is send the updated resolution to the full ANC December meeting to vote on, to send to DDOT.
I'll
second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Great. Motion carries.
Thank you all so much for your help.
Thanks, Commissioner, and look forward to voting on this in December. Okay, I know it's getting late, but guys, we have 2 more items. One of them is quick. I just wanted to go over and the other one might be quick too, but since we talked about it the previous 2 meetings, but this one is a notice of intent, and I do prefer that we weigh in on them, but they requested a shorter comment period this time. I believe I forwarded this to everyone, and so basically currently 8th Street Northwest and Florida Avenue Northwest allow right turns on red. There's a concern because of the crash history there that they want to add no turn on red to enhance pedestrian safety and driver safety. This is what the treatments would look like. So they're adding additional no turn on red signs, adding some do not enter signs, and adjusting the parking slightly, and adding some new, zooming in, pavement markings to kind of increase sight lines and prohibit turns. This should make it easier to cross the street and for drivers to kind of like see pedestrians in the crosswalk. Because of the crash history, they normally there's like a 45-day or 30-day requirement for public safety, but they issued it through a shortened 10-day public notice. I didn't feel anything in this was controversial enough to like push back on the 10-day shortened notice, right? Because they said like this was identified look through crash analysis and a high rate of crashes at this intersection, that I didn't want to, and it's quite a very 8th in Florida is a very busy pedestrian area. Didn't want to delay the implementation by requesting it to be longer. So officially the full ANC is not gonna vote on this, but I just wanted to mention it and see if anyone had anything they wanted to talk about on this one. It's fine if we don't.
I was gonna say that's a scary intersection, so I'm glad to have anything that makes it less scary.
Yep. Okay, great. Oh, Angela.
Oh yeah, just super quickly, what I'm noticing happening is that some vehicle traffic will come from V Street and cross over, what is that? 9th? Would that be 9th? Crossing over 9th to cut through like where the Whole Foods is. And they'll make that right to come down so they don't have to make that left turn going to U Street. So I'm just flagging that it might create a bottleneck on 8th. And there's a parking garage that's like on the back of Atlantis. A lot of cars that are like trying to come out of that way. So I'm just wondering if we're going to have like a traffic situation where there's congestion on that street, more congestion because people are using that as a cut through. And if we could remedy that by maybe taking some of the parking that's off of U and 8th, because I think that's what's interrupting people's sight lines for when they turn.
Nobody wants parking removed. Angela, I'm gonna tell you that. I'm only saying that because we have a lot of teachers who park around here, a lot of residents to park around here, and any removal of parking is the biggest no-no in this area. I'm only saying that because that's where you're going to get a lot of pushback, especially
Fair.
in the gold zone for parking. That's all. But I think it's a great idea to be respective of knowing where that how that traffic pattern works. But it is a very scary intersection. It always has been. It's a rite of passage if you if you try.
Dion.
I think just looking at it because that's my area in terms of that bottleneck, and I would agree because the direction of the traffic has been changed on that street where Atlantis is, the 901. People are going towards 8th Street, and then you have, especially in the mornings during school time, you have Cleveland, which is just a block away. That will likely create a situation where everybody is either trying to go forward, which is hard to do when school is in session and parents are double parked, or make that left, which also becomes. So I am curious as to what that will look like if they can no longer make a right, and the only options are going where it's generally congested between the hours of 7:30 and 9 each morning, going straight from that intersection, or either making a left. Yeah, that does
Well,
like
they will still be able to make right turns. It's just right now there's no prohibition on no turn on red. So at least at 8th in Florida, you'll still be able to turn right. They aren't removing that part. It's just the on red.
I think I think the installation of a stop sign would be great. I mean, excuse me, a stop sign. I mean, the actual traffic signage would be great. The only thing that I was just mentioning to, as I mentioned to Angela, is the removal of actual I mean, parking spaces. But I think that has a traffic study been done? That would be number one, and then number two, the installation of the signs, or possibly.
Karen,
Uh, can you
can
hear
I,
me?
well, can I ask what, for the stop sign, where are you talking about?
Excuse me. I meant the actual. You know how it has the actual no turn on red sign, not the stop sign. They tell
Yeah.
you not to turn on red, and apparently it hasn't been implemented there, even though that's the DC law.
Uh, so basically they're implementing the no turn on red signs. There's kind of we're kind of in a weird situation in DC where they passed the law for no turn on red, but it's kind of
Being
they're
ignored.
only enforcing it when they're putting the signs up, but they're not putting up the signs everywhere because of implementation costs. And there's also like a weird federal highway rule where, like, if it's the rule everywhere, there shouldn't be a sign anywhere. That's like a rule, and DDOT doesn't want to risk not having any no turn on red signs up because then everyone will just assume you can turn on red because that's what you can do everywhere else. So even though that is the law, they're like still kind of only enforcing it and signing it at specific locations with a like elevated crash history. So that's like what they're doing here.
Well, here's the other suggestion, but I would not. It's kind of a dangerous suggestion because they have those little bike lane concrete barriers in places, but I've seen people really wreck their cars on those things. I mean, is there some type of streetscaping that we could do to sort of hinder, slow down the traffic calming type of situation that we can place in in that area to sort of have people maneuver around it?
I think, Matt, if you put the diagram back up, they are going to be adding some paint and post daylighting. So that's those black stripe lines. Um, so that'll, yeah, on basically that whole south side of Florida, and then on both sides of 8th Street, just off the intersections. And so those will be it'll be the rubber posts and pavement markings. It won't be probably concrete blocks, but that should help with some of both the parking so close to the intersection that nobody can get through or make turns, as well as making sure that everyone can see each other.
Yeah. So I think maybe for this one, we flag it in our minds, and then we ask maybe in a couple months after they install this, we ask for an update. And I think especially because there's been, we had the previous complaint and the last topic about lack of kind of responsiveness from DDOT and the engagement team. Like if in the spring or like winter, like early next year sometime, we invite DDOT, Keisha Anderson or outreach folks to come back and like kind of do a readout like we did a couple months ago on different projects. Like this would be one of the things we give them as a question. Hey, we'd like you to attend the meeting. We have some questions about spots around the neighborhood. One of them is Florida in 8th. It was that quick comment period. Since you guys have installed it, like, have you seen an improvement, or like what's it looking like? Maybe that's what we do. Karen?
I actually I like that idea. I think if you give them a listing of the different things, especially if you work in their priorities with the ones that we're asking for as well, and let them know this is what we want to discuss. and they will be much more in tune to want to do their actual work that they have on their plate, but then also let them know that it's really important that they see these particular issues that we also have as community concerns that we want to discuss too. That's one of the ways that you can rebuild that relationship that has been dissolving over time with this with DDOT.
Okay. Great. Good comments, everyone. I know it's 9. I'd like to move on to the final item of the evening, and that is a return to multifamily ADA parking applications. Karen, if it's all right with you, I think, because nobody, you sent this right as the meeting was starting, and I love it. You sent 2 resolutions because we talked about splitting them into multifamily reserve space applications, and then also general ADA parking in residential areas. This meeting, let's talk about the first one, and the next meeting we can talk about the second one.
Well, it's 2 paths, 1 goal. I mean, one has immediate action that would be done through DDOT, and the second one, which will take a little longer, is going to require some work with the DC City Council. I'm just asking that if we can vote to approve both of the resolutions for the full ANC consideration. And I know with your help, because you are one of those willing commissioners to work on this, that we can move this faster. I broke it down into 2 resolutions that was suggested in our September meetings. If we have a way to just get the immediate relief now, and that's it. Everything is spelled out that I think will be helpful and effective for the community that has been suffering for quite some time. I shortened everything. I converted the whereas clauses as you requested. And I think ANC 1B would be great as the lead sponsor to show that they really do care about the disability issues for all of the disabled people and residents in our community. And that's it for me. Nothing else to add.
Excellent. I'm just making a quick change. Up at the top, just say diverse neighborhoods with significant multifamily housing stock, just because I just don't like listing the neighborhoods. But then, so everyone, Angela, you might not have seen some of these. I think we talked about these, and I maybe sent you some of the other links. I don't remember. But so this is an update to the resolution quickly for everyone. Whereas clause is just multifamily housing stock, equitable need for equitable disability parking spaces. We're asking DDOT and DC to eliminate discriminatory barriers to disabled residents of multifamily housing. Karen, I might strike this whereas clause just because I don't know who else has weighed in on this. But the next one,
well, I can tell you have, when you're saying you don't know who else is weighed in on,
just like what other
okay,
is
yeah, I got
ANC commissioners across all 8 wards, and that might be true. I just don't know it to be true.
Right, I understand.
Yeah. So then the next one, ADA and FHA mandate equal access and reasonable accommodations. Just like stressing that is a underlying law that they should be abiding by. Calling out the DCMR regulations, talking about that currently only residents of single family dwellings can apply in the program. Talking about the fees that people pay, like you're paying the same RPP fees regardless of whether you can apply for the disabled space or not. Like multifamily residents are still paying the same fees that single family residents are paying, but they can't participate in the full program. Just calling out that the regulatory framework is discriminatory And yeah, similar issue as above, talking about the fees. So then the resolve clause is, be it resolved that we amend the regulation to allow multifamily residents to apply. So removing housing type as a part of eligibility. Just saying that the eligibility for the program should be on, documented disability and medical requirements, lack of off-street parking, specific mobility limitations, verification, for those things, that's what the requirements are for single family right now. So then talking about fee equity, partial fee reimbursement for disabled residents, and that making sure fee structures reviewed so disabled residents are paying for services they can't fully access. And so then this is it's like the same issue as before, kind of, where it's aspirational, I think, asking for to be implemented, or like an emergency measure implemented within 30 days, full regulatory amendments drafted within 60 days, implemented and completed within 180 days, and then asking for updates to the ANC and disability advocacy organizations. This section, I want to talk about the stakeholder engagement. We talk about establishing an advisory committee made up of various stakeholders, and then finally, resolution designated as emergency legislation necessary for immediate preservation of public health, safety, and welfare of the disabled. 2 comments real quick. Karen, I wonder if like the disability advisory committee or commission that already exists could be like the vehicle for this, in the same way that there's like a pedestrian advisory committee or a bicycle advisory committee, there's like a disability advisory committee. So I wonder if like
it could be an add-in. The focus has not been on these type of issues. It's been on other things. I don't see it as more of a priority. It's a little bit of, when you said squishy earlier, this is extremely squishy. This is squashy.
Yes. And then I wouldn't, if we are going to suggest that they stand up something like this, it's an important issue in the neighborhood, but it doesn't just impact us. So I wouldn't ask that we were the leading commission.
Okay. That's understandable. I mean,
yeah.
but I really want to showcase. If you notice, a lot of the resolutions, I'm trying to get ANC 1B out there a little bit more. So that's more trying to highlight ANC 1B. But I understand, but I don't really want you to shrink this commission too much on that. But
okay.
The Office of Disability Rights is important, but I don't want to lose this priority in what they're focused on right now. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, well, there's the Office of Disability Rights, but isn't there a citizen
Yes, it's the
commission?
Multimodal Access Advisory Council.
Yeah, there is.
NAACDC.org. I just put the link in the.
So I just wonder if we would ask them to funnel that.
I think we should there's look, the more the merrier. I always believe you have more people, it is always helpful. That's all. But I
Yeah,
don't want to lose the commission's priority of working on this too.
Oh, well,
Because
yeah,
imagine you're representing this, Matt. This is your committee. I want to make
Right.
sure that the commission is being helped on that, doing their part. But thank you so much, Jay.
I was going to suggest adding the MAC alongside the ANCs and disability advocacy organizations in, I guess, section 4.
Yeah, so I'll just add them. So what I'll do is just add them to the list for stakeholder engagement. I'll leave in the language about establishing an advisory committee, but like just listing them as like a member of that.
And Angela, she asked a question about the full reimbursement for denied services. It's been a long time where the services have been denied. This is more on a discriminatory level, level of services that has been denied to this population, and so they've been paying into this program and has not received any of the services that the program is supposed to offer, Angela. So that's what that's covering. I know exactly. I'm just looking at your facial features and saying,
So, so they deserve a full credit for the number of years that they have not received services.
that would be a blessing.
Okay.
Well,
I'm
the
I'm challenging
But
the word
we
partial.
know
so the only thing with that though is
it's not realistic to DC law.
no. I don't want to always be the things aren't realistic guy. But I guess but also we don't need to get into it. But I'm just thinking like determining eligibility for fee reimbursement, because not everyone who applies to get the reserved disabled parking spot is, even if you could apply as a resident of a multifamily house, like some people who apply who live in single family housing right now don't get approved for this, right? Like it might be determined that they do have a parking spot or they don't meet X requirement. And so if this is expanded to multifamily, that would still be true too. So it's not like everyone who has a disabled placard would qualify for this program and then would get fee reimbursement. It would be, I think,
I
proving.
disagree with that point. I really do disagree with that point. And the reason why, because I've yet to find or hear of anyone. But if there are cases, those cases are extremely small. I have not heard of that at all. So please let me
And
know.
also that might be a little too much information, too much detail for this resolution anyway. It's not up to us to determine eligibility.
Right.
True.
Yeah, I just okay. So yeah, so my actual changes, I'll just go quickly, pull it back up, that I would suggest, if everyone is okay with them, just, I already talked about the neighborhoods, just getting rid of the all 8 wards, just because I don't know which other ANCs have.
That was just more for outreach efforts to get
Sure.
ANC 1B to ask the other commissioners to buy in on it, because I think if it's district wide, it's really, really helpful. And it was just a way for the ANCs to sort of do some outreach efforts as commissioners. That was it.
Yeah, understood. So
it's just me doing PR for ANC 1B. That's all.
Yeah, so those 2 changes at the top, removing the representatives from 1B lead the advisory committee, adding the MAC, and then this isn't, the resolution isn't really legislation, so I'm just going to strike that last comment.
Okay.
But other than that, I feel like, through some hard work on this and several rounds of conversations, I feel like we've gotten to a good place. So I would move to send this to the ANC at the December
And
meeting.
I second it and third it.
Thank you. Any last questions or comments? Okay, so all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? I think that was still an aye, not an opposed. Anyone abstaining? Great. Motion carries. We're gonna have several things.
Can I thank everybody for their patience and also for their fortitude of sticking with this. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Karen, for raising it as an issue. We do have that other resolution. What I want to do with that, because it is a separate issue, is send it around to everyone, let everyone read that. It is still about ADA parking. It's just more about not reserved spaces. It's like general purpose spaces around outside of commercial areas. But it's a full blown resolution on its own. I want to give it like time to the people to digest, and like we can have like a full conversation where I'm not falling asleep. So if everyone's okay with that, any final comments tonight?
I'm okay with moving it to our December, no, yeah, our December meeting.
Okay, great. Thanks for being here, everyone. Angela, great first meeting. Thanks for being here with us. Hope to see everyone soon. Have a happy Thanksgiving if I don't talk to you before then. And have a good night.
Just throw in one last thing before we go. Another reminder that the Ward 1 meeting of the Strategic Bike Plan Workshop is December 2nd. It'll be at St. Stephen's on Newton Street and 16th. I will actually be working that event. My firm is on the team for DDOT on that one, so I look forward to seeing many, if not all of you there that night.
Thanks, Jay, for the reminder. Karen, last comment, and then I am
Last
going to.
comment, and it's just basically to let everyone know, because they are so beautiful in being block captains and block safety people. We're looking for block captains for the 3rd district. For everyone who's vigilant like you all are, I would appreciate it. All you have to do is text captain to me, and I appreciate that. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Meeting is adjourned at 9:19. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Have a good night.